Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, we're going to be discussing some big projects that Deloitte has won. First up, we're going to talk about some work that they've potentially won in the UK. According to a website called Open Democracy, Deloitte might be getting a huge contract in the UK. In the UK, the government is trying to test all of their citizens for COVID-19. And if you check other websites like The Independent, you'll see that the Secretary of Health in the UK has said that he wants to test the whole population of the UK. And they've been putting plans together to get this done. And reportedly, the original testing plan was put together by a consulting firm called McKinsey, which is pretty well known. However, the deployment of the testing would be handled by Deloitte, or Deloitte would handle at least half of the testing according to Open Democracy. Now, it would make sense for a firm like Deloitte to win an engagement of this size because they have so many employees. But it would be interesting to see specifically what they would do, whether they would be verifying the information. There's a lot more to come from this. It would make a lot of sense because Deloitte has plenty of employees. In the UK, they have plenty of employees, and they have capacity, as Deloitte has been letting people go around the world. So this is potentially a huge project for them. And it wouldn't be shocking. And the reason it wouldn't be shocking is because of the next story. Deloitte, well, actually like an affiliate of Deloitte. As you know, the Deloitte global firm is not really like a corporation. It's an agreement of partnerships. There's partnerships all around the world. And it's in Japan where Deloitte's affiliate has won a huge project. Now, Deloitte in Japan is going to be helping distribute payouts to Japanese citizens. And the amount that they won here is really shocking. The work there is said to be worth about $400 million for Deloitte. And Deloitte won the contract after the previous organization messed up the payouts. And the previous organization was awarded the project for $700 million, but now Deloitte is going to finish it up and get $400 million for that work. And that's just a ton of money. That's like 1% of Deloitte's global revenue. So if this is true, this is huge. And the Japanese coronavirus relief payment was set to provide about $1,000 to each Japanese citizen, similar to what was done in the US. And in total, the bailout was about $240 billion in Japan. And this is an astonishing win for Deloitte. Now, if Deloitte wins both of these contracts and keeps them and does a good job, that's a ton of revenue. And it's a little bit concerning now that the big four accounting firms are winning these huge governmental projects because it's going to be more and more of their revenue. It's going to be more of professional services revenue overall. And the big four are going to be more reliant on government projects. And as we've seen in the US, Deloitte has had difficulty in a number of states deploying the unemployment systems. But the reason it's so appealing to hire them is because they're huge global firms. They have professional employees that have some kind of certification. In the US, it's CPA, and in other countries, it varies. But that's why it's so appealing. And also they put together these financial reports that we go over every year where they talk about their firms and the capabilities of their firms, and they put together nice brochures, and they're used to pitching on humongous engagements like this. And it's concerning because governments are going to be deploying tax dollars to these organizations, and these big four companies are going to be able to lobby to get more of this work, and they're going to be more reliant on it and less reliant on money from corporations. So I just see some conflicts of interest here and some things that could potentially go wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, if it's between Deloitte and other organizations, Deloitte is probably going to do a better job than some nonprofit organizations that won this work in Japan. But it's just interesting, and I think And I think these countries have to be careful. They have to realize that they can't concentrate all this work into one firm, and they should spread it out between not only the big four, but also consulting firms to make sure that they don't put all their eggs in one basket. But right now, this is a huge win for Deloitte. And for anybody that's worried about the big four accounting firms, you should worry about it, and you should worry about a career, but don't worry too much, because the work that they're losing in the private sector, they're going to be getting in the public sector from governments. Deloitte is winning these projects, and whether or not they do a good job in Japan or the UK, they can use those projects around the world to win more work in other countries. They can say, we have coronavirus expertise, and they can just put it up on their website and put a nice infographic to show the basics of those engagements and what they did on there to make other governments more comfortable. And that's what happened in the US, right? Deloitte did a bad job in certain unemployment websites in certain states. Yet they were still able to go back and win work in Florida because these organizations are independent of each other and they don't talk to each other. So the states where Deloitte did a bad job and the organizations where they did a bad job didn't necessarily talk to the Florida organization where they won additional work. And that's the problem, is there's not a Yelp for the big four accounting firms. There's not a Google reviews for the big four accounting firms. You just have to take their word for it, and you go for who has the best price and who's ready to put boots on the ground today. So this is a big win for Deloitte, and I'm sure there'll be more big wins coming for Deloitte and other accounting firms in the future. So to stay up to date on all of that, make sure to subscribe to this podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and support us through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description in the show notes to this podcast. And if you can't support us financially, then try and support us on YouTube by giving our video a like and subscribing. Thanks again.